Mark, you and I have spoken a number of times throughout the years, unfortunately, always some kind of air disaster. What do you make of this one? What do you think, based on the information we have so far, based on the video and the pictures we've seen so far, what do you think went so horribly wrong?
Well, it's always nice talking to you and seeing you. I'm sorry again for the circumstances we're dealing with today. Let's think about what we do know. We know that that plane took off on a normal takeoff run and never made it more than 700 feet. What could have caused that? When you take a look at the video, and again, we only have that very hazy video that was taken early on, it appears, and again, this is strictly conjecture because I don't have any further information. You take a look at the flap setting on the aircraft, you take a look that the landing gear was still down. From your time in the simulator with me, you know that there are warning horns if the flaps are not in the correct position, if an engine were to fail. It appears at this point that both engines did not fail, or at least they did not fail. One engine did not fail. If we lost two engines for birds or something like that, that's a possibility, although I didn't see any smoke coming out of the engine.
Mark, what about the wing flaps? The fact that there's a possibility they were not fully extended, that would be a problem, wouldn't it?
It would be a major problem, because let's take a look at what the flaps do on takeoff on an airplane. Where the wing is curved on top and flat on the bottom, you have a low pressure area on top, a high pressure area in the bottom, and you're pushing that wing up. If the flaps extend what they call the chord of the wing, which gives you more area, so you can get off the ground at a lower speed or a shorter amount of runway, those flaps are critical for takeoff. If in fact, again, if in fact they were not in the proper position for takeoff, that could be a major factor, because the aircraft would not have had enough lift to support the weight of the airplane.
Wait, hold on. Let me stop you for a second. So if the wings are not in proper position, they have to figure out if this was a mechanical issue or pilot error.
Well, that's certainly going to be looked at. This is a relatively new airplane. I believe it was 11 years old, somewhere around there. But what you have when you put the flaps out, and if you remember, there's a protocol going through a checklist. That airplane has an electronic checklist. When you complete a function, it changes from one color to another to let you know that that function's been completed. If it hasn't been completed, then that color change has not happened yet. And that you would still see that on your electronic display, that still needs to be accomplished before you can complete the checklist. So if that was not done, it could have been overlooked. But there's another backup mechanism, because people can fail, as we've seen in the past. There's a horn that goes off. There's a warning horn that says your flaps are not in that position. But there's a challenge and response between the two pilots. One will ask the flap setting, and the other one will verify it and point to it. You've been in the simulator with me. We've done that. What we do also want to look at is the level of experience of the crew, how the crew was getting along with each other. What was the language going back and forth between them? Were they rushed?
Well, there was a Mayday call from the co-pilot.
Well, that Mayday call happened immediately after takeoff. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday is the international wording that you're going to use when you have a catastrophic problem. But look what happened. They were in the air a minute or maybe a little bit longer. They were going down. There was no lift on that wing to support the weight of the airplane. Remember, that was going from India to the UK. It was heavy with fuel. It was heavy with bags. It had a very heavy complement of passengers on board. So that airplane was heavily loaded going down that runway.
And Mark, I got to ask you about the plane, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner with an excellent safety record.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think that this, just from a very cursory overview of what I have seen, It did not look as though this was a problem from the manufacturer, that the airplane itself. It looked like it might have been a configuration problem. Landing gear was still down, flaps didn't appear to be out, engines appeared to be running. What could have caused that? What would have prevented that airplane from gaining lift and taking off normally? Certainly the NTSB, the AAIB in India, the British Air Accidents Board is going to be investigating that. They're going to listen to the cockpit voice recorder. Did they get the checklist done? Did they get it done correctly? Was there any pressure on either of the pilots that didn't finish the checklist? All of that is going to be reviewed and reviewed by multiple agencies to come up with a probable cause of this accident.
And of course, the key is to find that black box, the data on voice recorder. Absolutely essential here. All right. Mark Weiss, as always, thank you very much.